Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante. Well, the Trump White House finally released a video, basically finally conceding the election. And I've got to be honest with you. I thought in this video, he was going to pardon the things that make America so great, which is freedom of speech and allowing for people to have a debate, which he's got a valid criticism. There's a lot of censorship going on. And just because it's coming from Trump and the right, censoring Trump isn't not necessarily overall, I'm not in favor of censorship. Now, when the commander in chief is advocating for violence, that's a problem. But as I've said in the discussion with Whitney Webb and others, I worry that the events of the Capitol are going to be used for basically Patriot Act 2.0. And I've gone and I've gone back and forth in my own head and even debated a little bit with Whitney and others. And I love Whitney. I love having her on the show. Because having armed neo-Nazis in the Capitol is not a small thing. That's not like and it's not like, oh, they're a handful of wingnuts. No, I mean, and Leon Camp and I have talked about on Government Secrets how like this country has been working with Nazis pretty openly since World War II. I mean, Operation Paperclip, we've talked about Operation Bloodstone. So, it's a serious issue. But back to Trump's speech today being Tuesday the 19th, he's out of power tomorrow. So he dropped this. He made this. I'm assuming made it today, but I don't know. It got released today, knowing that tomorrow, the 20th, Joe Biden gets sworn in, and he no longer will be president of the United States. So it's good that he's saying, "Yep, I'm going to turn over the administration." I was hoping he was going to pardon Julian Assange. He still might. It might all come out tonight. And I really hope that he does. Tucker Carlson has talked about it. Jimmy Dore was on Tucker and said he should do this, and journalists should be pushing for Trump to pardon Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. He absolutely should do that. So here's what he said. And I don't know. Yeah, and Pamela Anderson, who's been a big Assange advocate, has been trying to get a meeting with the president. Whatever it takes to get Julian pardoned, I would like to see that. But here's part of what Trump said.
My fellow Americans, 4 years ago, we launched a great national effort to rebuild our country, to renew its spirit, and to restore the allegiance of this government to its citizens. In short, we embarked on a mission to make America great again for all Americans. As I conclude my term as the 45th President of the United States, I stand before you truly proud of what we have achieved together. We did what we came here to do, and so much more. This week, we inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success in keeping America safe and prosperous. We extend our best wishes, and we also want them to have luck, a very important word. I'd like to begin by thanking just a few of the amazing people who made our remarkable journey possible. First, let me express my overwhelming gratitude for the love and support of our spectacular First Lady, Melania. Let me also share my deepest appreciation to my daughter, Ivanka, my son-in-law, Jared, and to Barron, Don, Eric, Tiffany, and Lara. You fill my world with light and with joy. I also want to thank Vice President Mike Pence, his wonderful wife, Karen, and the entire Pence family. Thank you as well to my Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, the dedicated members of the White House staff, and the cabinet, and all of the incredible people across our administration who poured out their heart and soul to fight for America. I also want to take a moment to thank a truly exceptional group of people, the United States Secret Service. My family and I will forever be in your debt. My profound gratitude as well to everyone in the White House Military Office, the teams of Marine One and Air Force One, every member of the armed forces, and state and local law enforcement all across our country. Most of all, I want to thank the American people. To serve as your president has been an honor beyond description. Thank you for this extraordinary privilege, and that's what it is, a great privilege and a great honor. We must never forget that while Americans will always have our disagreements, we are a nation of incredible, decent, faithful, and peace-loving citizens who all want our country to thrive and flourish and be very, very successful and good. We are a truly magnificent nation. All Americans were horrified by the assault on our Capitol. Political violence is an attack on everything we cherish as Americans. It can never be tolerated. Now more than ever, we must unify around our shared values and rise above the partisan rancor and forge our common destiny. 4 years ago, I came to Washington as the only true outsider ever to win the presidency. I had not spent my career as a politician, but as a builder looking at open skylines and imagining infinite possibilities. I ran for president because I knew there were towering new summits for America just waiting to be scaled. I knew the potential for our nation was boundless as long as we put America first. So I left behind my former life and stepped into a very difficult arena, but an arena nevertheless with all sorts of potential if properly done. America had given me so much, and I wanted to give something back. Together with millions of hardworking patriots across this land, we built the greatest political movement in the history of our country. We also built the greatest economy in the history of the world. It was about America first because we all wanted to make America great again. We restored the principle that a nation exists to serve its citizens. Our agenda was not about right or left. It wasn't about Republican or Democrat, but about the good of a nation, and that means the whole nation. With the support and prayers of the American people, we achieved more than anyone thought possible. Nobody thought we could even come close. We passed the largest package of tax cuts and reforms in American history. We slashed more job-killing regulations than any administration had ever done before. We fixed our broken trade.
All right. Okay. So at the beginning, look, he said he's leaving. He said, you know, he's not advocating for violence. He's saying everybody be peaceful and nice. That's great. Of course, he's going to say, I did everything. I'm number one. I fixed everything. I'm making it great. But I don't know who got in his ear and said, look, Mr. President, you're going to go to jail. They're going to walk you out in an orange jumpsuit if you don't. Because this is very different from the words he said the day after, the morning of June 6th when he gave that speech. But later in the speech, he talks about the foundations of America, including freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And I was watching this and I literally was like, oh man, he's about to pardon Julian Assange. Now he didn't. Now CNN claims, oh, he's not going, or he is going to pardon Julian Assange. But then in the ticker on Fox News after the speech this morning, it said inside sources, Fox, like White House sources, claim he will not, N-O-T, pardon Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks. That's what Fox News said on the ticker today. As soon as Biden is sworn in tomorrow, he is no longer president. So he has until tomorrow morning to pardon people. And that's usually what presidents do who are leaving. They do a bunch of pardons. So I don't know that he's going to. I really wish that he would. I wish that he would pardon Julian Assange and Snowden, because as I've talked about before in this show, I was part of the Unity for J live stream, whatever that was, 2-3 years ago now. And I've spoken at an Assange event 2 years ago up in San Francisco. And, you know, I got brought into that world by Elizabeth Lee Voss and Susie Dawson. And so, as we've talked about before on this show, Assange is a publisher. He's committed no crimes. And, you know, he's called out the crimes of the Democrats and the Republicans. He's called out crimes of Trump. He's called out crimes of Russia. And this crazy notion that was fueled by the Hillary campaign when they lost, and they lost because they ran a shitty campaign. That's another reason why I was so against the election. Oh, Trump was cheated election fraud. Because I'm like, well, Hillary lost and she claimed Russia, Russia, and he loses and oh, Biden stole the election. So it's just I'm just tired of this. It's part of the problem of this duopoly and their lesser of two evils nonsense. But Assange needs to be freed. All he did was publish. And he didn't tell Chelsea Manning she needs to be freed. Chelsea, Edward Snowden, and Julian all need to be pardoned and allowed to live freely back in this country is what needs to happen. So if Trump truly believes in all this stuff about how great America is, freedom of the press is a part of it. And even if he does it because he just wants to stick it to the Democrats or whatever his reasons are, I don't care. Julian Assange needs to be freed. And when journalists are jailed for revealing the crimes of governments, which is what WikiLeaks has done, they showed the crimes. The collateral murder video is war crimes that the United States military committed and was covered up. And the WikiLeaks, the Podesta emails show the crimes of the Democratic Party, which we didn't spend 4 years after 2016 going deep into those leaked emails. No one has disputed those emails. John Podesta himself never said, oh, those emails are fake. He just said, oh, it's Russia. They blamed everything on Russia. So we've never had a full investigation of the Democratic Party. And that's one of the things when I see MSNBC and CNN, blame all this stuff on the Capitol building solely on Trump. Trump had a lot to do with it, stirring up his base and all that stuff. And Proud Boys stand back and stand by and all. I mean, all that language is important. That language is not nothing, but give me a break. The corporate media fueled this Russia thing. Why do you think? So you had, 100,000 people at the Capitol building or however many people were there. I don't know. I've heard of 100, I've heard 20, 200,000, I've heard 50,000. I've heard all different kinds of numbers. So whatever, tens of thousands of people, let's call it, were at the Capitol because Trump was spewing this I was cheated election fraud thing. Well, this was started really by the Democrats screaming Russia. Hillary lost. The reason she lost, she ran an awful campaign. And then she said, oh, it was all Russia. So that just and the media acts like they're just these innocent bystanders. They give him more ad time because he was good for ratings. They gave, Les Moonves, the head of CBS, said he was good for ratings. We've talked about this numerous times during the 2016 primary. They cut away from Bernie Sanders giving a speech talking about Medicare for all and student debt forgiveness to cut to an empty podium where he was going to speak. Every day, they made so much money on getting big clickbaity ratings on, oh, did you hear what Trump said? Trump said this crazy thing. Trump said that crazy thing. For 4 years, we talked about Russia. So the corporate media and the Democratic Party help plant the seed that everything's fake. So then when Trump screams and the right-wing media screams, oh, Biden stole the election, it's easy for people to just jump on board with it. So the corporate media and the Democrats and Republicans, are partially to blame for helping incite this complete distrust of our government. Now, right-wingers and neo-Nazis showing up with AR-15s and Camp Auschwitz shirts and 6 million wasn't enough shirts, that's horrific and offensive. But MSNBC and CNN, and Rachel Maddow and them can't sit there and be completely like, oh, golly gee, we didn't. Every American knows they're being lied to, knows they're being cheated in one form or another. They just don't know where. So then they cling to whatever. Oh, it must be Russia. It must be you know, the Proud Boys. It must be this and that. And while I'm not defending alt-right or neo-Nazi organizations at all, and they're pretty horrific, we don't ever have any conversations about the corruption within the Democratic and Republican parties. We don't have any real conversations. There was never a full autopsy about the Podesta emails and the corruption of the Democratic Party. And the media gave them a pass. They didn't talk about it. They should have been talking about that. And meanwhile, while these two corrupt parties that are funded by the big corporations, we're still in climate collapse. Oh, by the way, we're still in climate collapse. The climate was collapsing before COVID. It's collapsing during COVID. It'll be collapsing after COVID. So you put that on top of all of the economic collapse from this pandemic. So I'm glad he's like not stirring up his Second Amendment neo-Nazi base. I'm glad not all Trump supporters are neo-Nazis. I'm not going to say that, but the ones that are, they would do whatever he said. And you see interviews with cops, they're saying crazy stuff. They sound like some of these cops they were like, "Get kill him with his gun," and all this crazy stuff. And you hear these cops who are like confronted with him, like these people felt like they're crazy cult members. Not all Trump supporters are cult members, but that faction of them that went to the Capitol with guns and zip ties and smash things and wanted to just go nuts. You know, that's a scary base, but that's part of that got fueled not just by this guy, but by the Russiagating, talking about Russia for 4 years. Because let me tell you something, had Biden lost, they would have screamed Russia again, because I did videos on the corporate media talking about it. Russia's interfering again in the 2020 elections. Oh, Biden wins. And I guess Russia didn't interfere this time. Or they only did what? Down ballot races? So the corporate media and this corrupt two-party system run by these corrupt politicians that are paid by the oligarchs, that's what really needs to be undressed and discussed and broken down. And just now I'm afraid, I worry that the Biden administration and just these neoliberal Democrats like Neera Tanden, who love censorship and love war, are going to use this as an excuse for Patriot Act 2.0. And you watch the mainstream media, that's all they're talking. Oh, domestic terrorists. And I'm not like these armed neo-Nazi organizations that want to kill people that are Jewish and people of color. That's scary. And those organizations should be called domestic terrorists, but they're going to use it for everybody. They're not going to just use it for organizations where they have the technology to say, okay, this group of people, they have weapons. This is them planning to kill people. This is them, whatever, planning to kidnap the governor of Michigan. Okay, that's a domestic terrorist organization, but they're going to apply this to anybody. That's what's scary. Oh, the Sunrise Movement wants to peacefully sit at the Capitol building outside of Nancy Pelosi's office and demand a Green New Deal. Oh, domestic terrorists, you get locked up. Jimmy Dore and myself and others, we demand to force the vote for Medicare for all. Oh, you guys are domestic terrorists. You said F you to a congresswoman. Oh, you're a domestic terrorist. You're going to jail. You comedians are flying around the country spreading a message, a progressive populist message in a comedic manner, making fun of the ruling class. Oh, you're on the no-fly list. So we're going to really impede your way to make money when the country opens up after COVID. So that's because I had a friend of mine who was critical of the Bush administration. He did political cartoons critical of Bush. He got put on the no-fly list during the Bush era. I mean, look what Obama did during Occupy Wall Street. Look what he did to the Occupy movement. He had federal cops snatch up people off the street during the Occupy movement. He did it in Baltimore. He did it, in Ferguson. Federal cops targeted Black Lives Matter activists. That was under Obama and Biden. He did the same thing. And now Biden and Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, we know her record. She put 100,000 black men behind bars. She defended pedophile priests as the district attorney of San Francisco. So after tomorrow, man, after January 20th, there's not going to be any more excuses. You can't blame it all. Oh, Trump, like racism just showed up 4 years ago. No, these racists have been here a long, long time. Yes, he helped incite them. Yes, he gave them a voice. But part of, if we don't look at the socioeconomic reasons that got people to come to the Capitol building and whatever, there's a lot of, we can't just pass that up. People have been abandoned by this country, abandoned by both parties. And that's what happens. They get drawn to nationalists. They get drawn to fascists. I mean, that's how what happened in Germany. They were crushed after World War I, economically crushed. Then the Depression hit. I mean, we're seeing a rise in far right nationalists all over the world because globalism, neoliberal globalist policy, is taking so much money from the 99% and putting it into the hands of the 1%. The people are fed up. And when they get fed up financially, they look for an enemy. They look for a leader and they look for an enemy. And oh, it's them. That group stole your money. That group took your job. So the socioeconomic reasons that create fertile ground for these type of coups and uprisings and violence and nationalism and fascism and racism. It plants the seed for that. And getting back to the original point of this is all the more reason why we need a free press holding those in power accountable. Right now, the media in America is just mouthpieces. They're watchdogs for the powerful. They're guard dogs for the powerful. They should be watchdogs. I said that incorrectly. They should be watchdogs calling out when the powerful are making mistakes, but instead they're guarding the powerful. So anybody that challenges them, like Assange, like Snowden, like Chelsea Manning, oh, we lock you up. So if America doesn't learn from this, this is going to be bad. And when I hear people on the so-called lefties screaming for censorship, letting unelected tech billionaires tell you what you can and cannot say, that's bad. That's not a democracy, by the way. That's not a democracy.
Withdrew from the horrible Trans-Pacific Partnership and the impossible Paris Climate Accord, renegotiated the one-sided.
Now this is where he's spewing about how great he is. I don't agree with this. But he's not advocating for violence, which he did 2 weeks ago. He did that.
South Korea deal, and we replaced NAFTA with the groundbreaking USMCA. That's Mexico and Canada, a deal that's worked out very, very well. Also, and very importantly, we imposed historic and monumental tariffs on China, made a great new deal with China. But before the ink was even dry, we and the whole world got hit with the China virus. Our trade relations.
All right. It's not a China virus, Don. It's not a China virus. That is xenophobic, racist nonsense, and blaming it on China is preposterous. One of the reasons we blame it on China is because they are an economic threat to us. That's why we're trying to say China virus. And calling it the China virus actually has incited like racism towards Asian Americans here in America. And again, our corporate media won't call this out, nor will our corporate media thoroughly investigate the pathogens that disappeared from Fort Detrick. Nor will our corporate media call out, like Whitney Webb has investigated, the pandemic simulation of 2019 that basically predicted COVID-19. There's a lot of questions, a lot of people involved, and Whitney Webb has done a great job of this, and I've had her on my show numerous times. There's a lot of people involved, so it seems like maybe that this pandemic, came from the United States. And so if we created it, then of course we're going to blame somebody else. So this is more of Trump's bullshit fueled in there. And I wish he would just shut the fuck up and pardon Julian Assange.
Relationship was rapidly changing. Billions and billions of dollars were pouring into the U.S., but the virus forced us to go in a different direction. The whole world suffered, but America outperformed other countries economically because of our incredible economy and the economy that we built.
Okay, there's people in food lines. I can't watch this anymore. There's people in food lines, Trump. There's people in food lines. So you don't know what you're talking about. But okay. So like to see a Julian Assange pardon. I'm not excited about Joe Biden at all, but I'll be, I don't know. We're getting rid of this. Just we're the best, number one. China's the problem, whatever nonsense. And later, and he starts taking credit for the stock market, which I don't know how many times I got to say in this show. When the stock market's doing well, it doesn't matter to working class people because 85% of all stocks are owned by 10% of the population. So when the stock market's doing great, have you ever seen more money? Have you ever seen anything show up? Have you ever seen anything get better in your life when the stock market goes up? No. Unless you personally own a stock portfolio, then great. And your stocks in that portfolio are doing well with the stock markets. They always sell the stock market's doing great. No. The stock market doing great means the 1% is having a good day, but we're getting more of our labor and our wealth extracted from us from the 1%. So I can't listen to that anymore, that nonsense. I'll be glad when he's gone, but I got to tell you, I am not excited about Joe Biden at all. I watch him speak and I'm like, he's losing. He is demonstrating clear cognitive decline. And so I think the plan is he's not going to make it past his first term. And then we're going to have Kamala in there locking up people for smoking weed, a plant. So swapping out a Republican authoritarian fascist for a Democratic authoritarian fascist, because that's ultimately what the ruling class wants, is nothing to be that excited about. But I hope Trump pardons Julian Assange. That is the right thing to do. If you read the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, Julian Assange should be free. Edward Snowden should be free. What Edward Snowden did actually should have made his superiors at the NSA, one of whom, the deputy director of the NSA, I believe, lied in front of Congress during the Obama years. Those people should have been arrested after Edward Snowden. Instead, they demonized Edward Snowden. Chelsea Manning should be a hero that is studied in schools, but instead she's in prison. And they might have released her, I forget. But so that's what needs to change. And when the vote any blue will do liberals see authoritarian stuff come out of Biden and Kamala Harris, I wonder what their reaction is going to be. Because let me tell you something, after the 20th, there's no more excuses, liberals. You can't make any more excuses. Biden's in the White House. The Democrats control Congress and the Senate. You have no more excuses. You can't blame everything on Trump. You can't blame the Republicans. You can't blame Russia. You have all the power. And if they don't get it done, it'll show you how full of shit they are. It'll show you. The squad you can't trust. You can't trust Bernie. You can't trust any of them. You can't trust Tulsi. You can't trust any of these folks. So don't trust them. If they have a D in front of their name, you can't trust them. If they have an R in front of their name, you can't trust them. So let's see if they will pardon Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, and Chelsea Manning. Thanks for watching the show. Support what we do. My documentary, Graham Goes to Russia, is available at rockfin.com/Graham Elwood and patreon.com/Graham Elwood. I'm very proud of the film. I'm the only one going to Russia, interviewing Russians on the street. You'll see what life is like in Russia through my eyes. I went to Moscow and St. Petersburg. It's not the whole country, not by a long shot, but it's fun. I interview cool people. Susie Dawson's in the movie. Peter Lavelle's in the movie, and a bunch of different people, street performers, comedians, tour guides, all different people on the street. An American, I talked to an American living in Russia. It's really cool. It's a really cool film, and I'm very proud of it. So check that out. And thanks for watching the show. Like, share, subscribe, and shave your knuckles for justice. Because without press freedom, we are not a democracy. Free Julian Assange. Boom. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at grahamelwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.